Hello everyone, thanks for watching this video. In this video I will show the SQL stuff you have to learn in order to do Lab 7. So Lab 7 will focus exclusively on different types of selects. So you'll be doing things like unions, left joins, inner joins, top keyword, and that kind of thing. So what I'll do is I will go through each question in the lab assignment and show you how to do those different kinds of concepts. We can use my same example database that I've been working on this semester with this bookstore system. And so I'll just show the examples using this database. So let's get started. So here is Lab 7. What do you need to do first? Okay, create a select query to show a distinct list of all project statuses in the project table. Use a distinct keyword. This one is super duper simple. Let's show an example. So let's go to here. So how do you do select distinct? Let's say we want to get a distinct list of all the publisher IDs in the book table. How do we do that? Well, let's start by just doing a select star from book just to see what's in there. So you can see that we have 3 books. 2 of them are by publisher ID 3 and 1 of them is by publisher ID 2. So how would we get a distinct list of the publisher IDs in this table? Well, it's pretty simple. You just say select distinct and then the field you want the distinct list from, in this case publisher ID. Let's run it, and there we have it, 2 and 3. So distinct is very simple. Let's go on to number 2. Okay, create a select query to show all consultants and company contacts. Your query should return only 2 columns. So we want a column with first name and a column with last name. And the tricky part is that even though the consultants and the company contacts are in different tables, we want them to show up in the same columns. So we're not going to be joining those 2 tables. We will be using a union to combine the tables vertically instead of a join which combines them horizontally. So let me show you how you would use a union. Now in this database I don't really have any good tables to union, but maybe what I can do is make like an editor table with names, and then I can show you how I would union that editor table with those names with a list of authors. Like if I wanted a query to show all the authors and editors together. So why don't I add a new table? Oops. Editor. Editor ID. Editor first name. Editor last name. And to be consistent, why not have an editor middle initial? So I'm going to make editor ID required, editor first name required, editor last name required. What I probably should do is keep track of the link between books and editors. So I'm going to decide on a rule which is each book can only have 1 editor. We can't have a book with more than 1 editor, but each editor can can edit 0 to many books. So what I'm going to do is first add a column to my book table. Let me call this editor ID. Now I'm not going to make this required because I'm going to say that you can have a book with no editor. Let me just move this down a little so it looks a little better. There. Okay. So the kind of relationship I want here is a 0 to many. So I'm going to grab this, copy, paste. So the one side is here. Okay. And the many side is on book. Now I don't like it when it combines these lines because it makes it really hard to tell what's going on. So let me see if I can force it to draw the line differently. Yeah, I really don't like that. Having these lines go together. Let me just throw this up here. There. Okay, now it's not causing a problem. Now the only thing I need to change is this is correct because an editor has 0 to many books, but a book can have 0 or 1 editors. So this shouldn't be 1 and 1, it should be 0 and 1. So I'm just going to change this. Set end symbol to 0 or 1. There, that's better. So now I've created this in my data model so that you can see what's going on in my database, but I still have to create this editor table. Let's do that. Let's see if I can do this without any syntax errors. Now, did I do first name? Yeah. Now editor middle initial. Let's do that car1 because it will always be one character. We'll make that null because it's not required. Then the only thing we need is our primary key. And that's on editor ID. Let's see if this works. Oh, I got the syntax right. Let's look at our editor table. Now you won't have to create any new tables for Lab 7 like I'm doing, but I have to do this in my test database because in order to show a union, I really need two tables that make sense to union together. So let's add a few editors. I'm going to do this the easy way because I don't want to write all this code and make a bunch of errors. So I'm just going to open up this like we do in Excel or Access and just type them right in. Okay. Maybe I'll just put 2. Make that null. Okay, so now we've got 2 editors. There. Now the only thing I have to do is set up that foreign key, or actually I need to add a new column to my book table, this editor ID column. Maybe I'll do this the lazy way. Just add it right here. Let's say that's an int, allow nulls. Okay, now what I have to do is add that foreign key. For that, I will need to do it manually, because I don't know if there's a way in Management Studio to add a foreign key using the GUI. Maybe there is. But I don't know if I've done that, so maybe I'll do that by typing the SQL. Add constraint fk let's call it book editor ID foreign key, and that's going to be on the editor ID column. References editor table. Now let's see if I get this syntax right. Okay, somehow I did. So now we finally can do the fun part, the union. So let's do select star from book, and we'll do a select star from editor. Actually no, I want to do author, because I want to union the names in these two tables. Okay, so you can see I have some authors here and I have some editors here. Now how would I get those all to show up together? Now I don't want to join these tables. There's no field to join them on. I don't want to have the authors in one column and the editors in another column. I want to have them together, so it's very simple. You just do select, and let's say author first name. Now I'm going to give this column an alias, because when it shows up in the results, I don't want the column name to be author first name, because I will have editors there too. So I'm just going to say as first name. Then I'll have author last name as last name from author. And then we say union, which means to combine the tables vertically. Then we select editor first name, and we don't need, when you do a union, you only need an alias for your first table that you're unioning, because this will automatically take on the same alias. So we can just say editor first name, editor last name, from editor. So this should give me 5 rows. So it should put the authors from this table on top of the editors here. And there we have it. So that's how you do a union. It's pretty easy to do. It just took me a while to set up because I needed to make a new table and make some new data and put a foreign key on the database. But you know how to do unions now. That's good. Let's go to question 3. So we want to, this one's pretty simple. Create a select query that shows all projects. Join to the company table to show the company for each project. And then we just specify a few columns to show, and we'll use an inner join. We will not use a where clause. So this is going to be a different way to join tables. You can join them by using the table name, comma, and then the other table name, and then say where, you know, the field from one table equals the field from the other table. But in this lab, you're required to use the inner join syntax instead. Let me show you how that works. Let's just comment this all out, just in case I need this later. Just push that to the top where we won't see it. So what we want to do here is do a join, and what tables should we join? Maybe to show the inner join, I will show how you would join the book table and the publisher table. So select, and I'm just going to skip which columns to show. I'll take care of my from clause first. Let's say from book, and then you say inner join. Now there are other types of joins like left join, which I'll show later in this video. There are a few others like cross cross join, which we aren't going to get into, but if you're interested, you could Google the different types of joins. It's kind of interesting. There are many options. So let's say book inner join publisher. So instead of saying book comma publisher like you did in the last lab, you're going to say book inner join publisher. Then instead of saying where the field from here equals the field from here, you're going to say on, and then in my book table I have publisher ID. In my publisher table it's also called publisher ID. So if your column has the same name in both tables, you need to use a table prefix, which is just table name dot column name. So I'm going to join on the book table publisher ID column equals the publisher table publisher ID column. What am I going to select? Maybe just the book title and the publisher name. Maybe book ID also. Book title and publisher name. And then I believe there was some sorting you had to do. Oh, actually no sorting here. So let's not do that. Let's just run this. And there you go. You have each of the 3 books with the publisher name. So that's how you do an inner join. Moving on to number 4. So what will we show here? What we need to show here is we need to show all the consultants from the consultant table, and then we need to show their title descriptions. Now, the important thing here is that not all consultants have a consultant title, but we still want to show the consultants that don't have a title. That's why we need to use this left join. So a left join means take all the records from the table on the left side of the join, and then where the records match on some field to a table on the right, we also include those records. But if the records are not present on the table that's on the right side of the join, it will just show a null for any column you retrieve from that table. Sounds a little complicated. It is. Left joins are complicated to get straight in your head. You also can use a right join, which would just do the opposite. So it's important that you put the correct table on the left side of your join versus the right, or else it won't work. So what should we do here? Well, in our data model, maybe what I can do is I can have some books with an editor and some books without an editor. And then that will give me the capability of showing how this left join works. So let me open up my book table for editing. So let's say that my first 2 books have editors. Maybe this one has editor 2, this one has editor 1, this one does not have an editor. So now let's just modify this. So we're going to do book, well, left join, editor. Okay. So what this means is the left keyword means we're going to take all records from this table on the left, and the table on the right will only take records that match to some field in the book table. And again, you're going to say on, and we have book.editorID. I wonder why it's not showing there. Equals editor.editorID. Okay. We don't want publisher name there. Maybe editor first name, editor last name. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so you can see what happened. We still have our 3 books, Now, our first two books have an editor, but since our last does not, we just show a null here. So that's how a left join works. Now, I believe here in question 4 it also asked you to sort. So just as a reminder for how to do that, if we wanted to sort by editor last name, then let's say book title, we could do it like this. And let's see what it does with these nulls when it sorts it. It puts it first. So something that's interesting about nulls is that when you sort something, when you sort a column with nulls, the nulls always come first. So if you didn't understand what a null was, you might say, oh, why doesn't it say Edison first, then null, which begins with an N? Or I'm sorry, then J, Edison, then Jones, and then null at the end, since N is the last one in the alphabet. But null means nothing, so it always comes first. So that is how you do a left join with ordering. What's next? We want to show each company name and the total consultant hours spent on projects for that company. So we're going to return company name and the total hours that have been spent on projects for that company. Now, important hint, for this question you'll need to join 3 tables, because you can't just join company table directly to consultant to project timetable. You'll need to join company to project and then project to project time. So that you'll have to figure out how to do, but it shouldn't be that hard. For our example, I want to show how to do an inner join with a group by. Now I'm just going to be joining 2 tables, but I'll leave it to you all to figure out how to join 3 tables. So let's do a join with a group by from our test database. Now maybe what we could do, it's kind of a silly thing to do, but just as an example, maybe we could say show each publisher name and the total number of pages in all the books published by that publisher. So that would require joining publisher and book and summing the book pages, as well as grouping by the publisher name. So how do we do that? Okay, we know we start with select. Let's do the join first. We have book and publisher, so book, inner join, publisher. We've been doing the same join a few times in this example. Book.publisherID equals publisher.publisherID. So that's our join. Now what do we want to select? We want the publisher name, and we want the sum of all the pages in all the books published by that publisher. So we're going to sum book pages. Now, there's one important thing you need here, which is your group by. Now, a group by says that you're going to group all the rows together into one row where all the rows are the same on a certain field. So we don't want one record for each book. We want one record per publisher. So we will say group by publisher name. And let's see what happens. First, let's do just a select query from book. And we'll run both of those at the same time, just so you'll see how this grouping works. So you can see here, these 2 books have the same publisher. So what we want to do is sum these pages together, and for publisher 3, show the total number of pages from all their books. So publisher ID 3 is Doubleday. So you can see, no, publisher ID 3 is Pearson. So you can see, well, maybe to make this easier, what we can do is let's run a version of this query that does not have the grouping, just so we can see all the detailed records. So I'll run those both. Okay. So here you can see our 3 records. So Doubleday is publisher ID 3. They only have one book that they published, and it has 978 pages. So that's this record. Now Pearson published 2 books. You can see. One with 145 pages, one with 320. And you can see by using this sum and group by in our second query, we show just one row for Pearson and the number of pages here, which is the sum of these 2 numbers. Now, one thing we should do so that we don't just say no column name is give an alias. That's something that's required in the lab also, because if you were ever to create some kind of report that used this column, then it would be unclear to the users what data they're seeing here if it had no meaningful column name. So, what happened? Oh, I shouldn't have put that semicolon there. Okay, execute. So there we have it. See, now it says total pages. So we're actually going to reuse this query later, so I'm just going to comment this out for now. Now what do we do next? I think we only have 2 more questions to go through. This one. Create a select query that shows the 3 projects with the latest start dates. So show project ID, start date, end date, project status. And the hint is to use the top keyword. So the top keyword basically says limit the results to the first X number of rows. So this one's actually a really easy one to do. Let's say in our example we will use the book table. So let's select everything from book just to look at it. Okay. Let's say we want to select the 2 books that have the most pages. So you say select top, and you can put top 1, top 100, top 1000, any number can go here. But we'll say top 2, and then you say what columns you want to show. Let's show book ID, book title, and book pages. So whenever you have a top, you always need an order by, because we want to show the 2 books with the top number of pages. So we need to tell the database when it returns the data to order it by book pages. And the important thing we need to do is when we order it, we have to order it descending. That's what this keyword says. Because if we were to do it without the descending keyword, it would show us the 2 books with the fewest number of pages. So let's execute. So you can see it showed us the 2 books with the most pages. If we were to take out this descending, then it would default to ascending order, and now it would show us the 2 books with the fewest pages. So that's a pretty simple one. We have 1 more to go. Okay. We want to show all projects which have more than 300 consultant hours. So this is something where we're going to group by the project ID, and we're going to need to do a filter so that we want to say only show the records where the sum of the consultant hours is greater than 300. That's what having clause is for. Now a where clause is what you use if you're filtering a scalar value, which means a value that is not summed. So for example, show me everything where the ID is greater than 10, or where the salary is greater than 10,000. That's for the where clause. The having is if you want to do a filter on an aggregated value, which we need to do if we're summing the number of hours for each project. So how can I show an example? Again, let's use the book pages. example. So I'm going to reuse my earlier query here because this already has a sum and a group by. So let's see what this was again. Okay, so we're joining our two tables and we're summing the number of pages by publisher. What if we wanted to say, let's only show publishers in which the total number of pages from all their books is greater than 500? All we do is have another clause, having, and then we're going to use this sum here, and then greater than 500. So this should only bring back one record, just Doubleday. There we have it. One mistake that I used to make and a lot of new database developers make is trying to do something like this, where sum, and if you try to do that, it just tells you incorrect syntax because you cannot do a where clause with an aggregated value. Whenever you have an aggregated value like sum or count or average or whatever, you need to say having. Just make sure that works. Good. So that's it. Hopefully this was helpful. Now you should know how to do all of the different types of questions on Lab 7. And of course you can contact me if you're having any problems with your code. Thank you.